Christmas Eve is supposed to be a night of warmth, family, and love, but for me, it became the coldest night of my life. My own family abandoned me, leaving me at a shelter door with no explanation, vanishing into the night as I sat there in shock and despair. But life has a way of turning heartbreak into surprise. The very next day, while they went on with their lives, my face was on every TV screen. I had won $5 million and they were shocked. Don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Like and subscribe for more interesting stories. I never imagined that Christmas Day would begin with joy and end with me standing outside a shelter with a small bag in my hand. The morning felt normal. I woke up early, like I always do, and I wrapped the little gifts I bought for my daughters. They were simple things, scarves I found on sale, but I chose them with care. I kept telling myself that this Christmas would be warm and peaceful, even if life hadn't been easy the past few months. When Linda called and told me she and her husband were picking me up for a special Christmas outing, my heart lifted. I thought maybe we were finally going to spend time together like we used to. I put on my old brown coat, combed my hair, and waited by the window. Their car stopped in front of my small apartment. I climbed in and greeted them with a smile. Linda barely looked at me. Caleb nodded without emotion and kept driving. I tried to talk about Christmas memories, but my voice kept fading when neither of them answered. After a long, silent drive, the car turned into the yard of a tall, old building. I didn't recognize it. I thought it might be a hotel or a place for lunch. But the moment the car stopped, Caleb got out quickly and opened the trunk. He took my small bag and placed it on the cold ground beside me. "Dad," Linda said, avoiding my eyes, "we can't keep taking care of you. You need proper support, and this shelter will help you more." Her voice was flat, as if she were reading from a paper someone forced into her hand. My breath became heavy, and my fingers tightened around the gift bags on my lap. "A shelter?" I whispered, not sure I heard her right. "On Christmas?" Caleb stepped closer. "Don't make this difficult. They will take you in. It's better this way." Before I could reply, Linda turned quickly back to the car. Caleb followed her, and the doors shut. I reached out slightly, hoping she would look back, even for a second. She didn't. The car drove away, leaving tire marks in the soft snow. I stood there, the cold sinking through my shoes, staring at the building that suddenly felt too big for me. I had raised those children with all I had. I never thought I would be left behind like this. Inside the shelter, a man with gentle eyes greeted me. "I'm Mr. Grant," he said. "Come in, sir. You must be freezing." His kindness surprised me. I nodded and followed him inside. The air smelled like soup and cleaning powder. People were sitting on old chairs, wrapped in blankets. I felt out of place, like I had stepped into someone else's life. Mr. Grant showed me a thin mattress in a room with several beds. I placed my little gifts beside me, unsure what to do with them now. That night I lay awake, listening to the quiet breathing of strangers. My chest felt heavy. I kept asking myself what I had done wrong. It was Christmas, yet I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my entire life. When I opened my eyes the next morning, for a few seconds I forgot where I was. The thin mattress, the bare wall, and the sound of people moving around reminded me quickly. It wasn't my old apartment. It wasn't my daughter's homes. It was the shelter, the place where Linda and Caleb had left me on Christmas Day. I sat up slowly. My back ached a little, but that wasn't new. What hurt more was the quiet feeling inside my chest, the one that told me my family had decided I was too much trouble. I reached for the small wrapped gifts beside my bed and held them for a moment. I didn't know what to do with them anymore. I checked my phone, no messages, no missed calls. I decided to try calling Nora. My younger daughter always had a softer heart. Maybe she didn't know what Linda had done. Maybe she could explain things to me. I pressed her number and waited, listening to the ringing. No answer. I let the phone fall gently into my lap. I told myself she was busy, but the truth was harder to ignore. Maybe she didn't want to get involved. Maybe she agreed with Linda and Caleb. I tried not to think too much. If I let myself think too deeply, I knew tears would come. A soft knock came on the doorframe. Mr. Grant stood there with a small smile. "Morning, Henry," he said. "We're serving breakfast downstairs. You should join us." His voice was warm, the kind of warmth that makes a cold room feel less empty. I thanked him and followed him to the dining area. People were already eating. Some talked quietly, some ate with their heads down. I took a seat at the edge of a long table. The food was simple: oatmeal, bread, and a cup of tea. But the warmth felt good. For a moment, I realized I hadn't eaten since the day before. While I ate, a woman across the table spoke to the group. "The city lottery is having a Christmas special today," she said. "People are lining up outside to check their numbers." Her words made me smile a little. Not because I thought I could win anything, but because it reminded me of a small, silly moment a few weeks earlier. I had bought one lottery ticket from a corner shop, not because I believed in luck, but because I liked the little stars printed on it. I had folded it and stuffed it into my coat pocket, then forgot about it completely. After breakfast, I walked back to my bed and sat down. The shelter was quiet during the day, and the silence made my thoughts louder. I asked myself over and over what I could have done differently for my daughters. I wondered why love seemed to disappear so easily. But then something inside me changed, just a little. A small thought slipped into my mind. Maybe I needed to stop blaming myself. Maybe the problem wasn't that I was a burden. Maybe the problem was that they had stopped seeing me as their father. For the first time in a long while, I let myself breathe slowly and deeply. I didn't know what was coming next, but I felt a tiny spark inside me, a small reminder that I was still alive, still here, and my story wasn't over yet. Later that evening, the shelter felt different. People were moving around more, talking louder than usual. Someone had turned on the large TV in the common room. Chairs were pulled together, and a few people sat on the floor. The city lottery special was about to begin, and everyone seemed excited. I wasn't planning to join them at first. I was still tired from the night before, and my thoughts kept drifting back to my daughters. But staying alone in my room made the silence too heavy. So I walked slowly to the common area and sat in the back corner where no one would notice me. As I settled in, I put my hands in the pockets of my old coat, trying to keep them warm. My fingers brushed against something thin and crumpled. I pulled it out and looked at it closely. It was the lottery ticket, the one with the tiny stars that made me smile weeks ago. I shook my head softly. "I can't believe I still have this," I whispered to myself. It looked tired and folded, like it had lived in that pocket forever. I smoothed it carefully and held it between my fingers. Everyone turned their attention to the screen as the live draw began. Bright lights flashed, music played, and the host read out the numbers one by one. The room grew quiet, except for a few soft laughs and whispers. I looked down at my ticket and read the first number on it. The host called the same number. I blinked, thinking I was imagining things. I checked again. No mistake. Then, the second number was announced. My heart tapped lightly against my ribs. That one matched, too. I didn't want to make a scene, so I didn't say anything. I just whispered the numbers as the host read them aloud. And each time, the ticket in my hand agreed with her. Someone sitting nearby turned to look at me. "Why are you saying all the numbers?" he asked with a friendly smile. I didn't answer right away. I just showed him the ticket. His eyes widened. "Hold on," he said. "Let me see that again." He compared it to the numbers on the screen. "These all match," he said quietly, then louder. "These all match." People turned toward us. I felt my face getting warm. I didn't like attention, but I couldn't hide the ticket now. The woman who had spoken at breakfast hurried over to look at it too. She gasped and covered her mouth. "Henry," she said, "this is the winning combination. You need to show this to someone in charge." I felt dizzy. Winning a small prize would have surprised me. But this was different. This was the grand prize, the one nobody truly believes they will ever touch. Mr. Grant came over, calm as always. He looked at the ticket, checked the numbers once more, and nodded slowly. "Henry, you need to be on the morning show tomorrow. This is real." I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know how to feel. Only hours earlier, I'd been wondering if my life still mattered. Now I sat holding a small piece of paper that could change everything. I looked around the room. Instead of pity, I saw smiles. Kind smiles from people who barely knew me, but still seemed happy for me. For the first time in a long while, a warm feeling filled my chest. I didn't know what the next morning would bring, but I knew something in my life had shifted in a way I never expected. The next morning, I felt a strange mix of nervousness and disbelief. A car from the TV show arrived to take me to the studio. I had no fancy clothes, only the same brown coat I had worn yesterday. But Mr. Grant helped me straighten it as best as I could. My hands shook a little, not from the cold, but from the thought of standing on national television. When I arrived at the studio, everything seemed enormous. Bright lights, cameras, and people bustling everywhere. It was nothing like the quiet world of the shelter. I followed a kind assistant who guided me to a waiting room. My ticket was in my pocket, folded neatly. I kept touching it, as if holding it close could make this reality feel safer. Soon the host, Serena Blake, greeted me. She smiled warmly and led me onto the stage. Thousands of eyes weren't looking at me yet, but I could feel the invisible weight of millions of people watching. My heart pounded, but I took a deep breath and tried to remind myself that I had survived much worse already. "Welcome, Henry," Serena said, her voice cheerful. "Can you tell our viewers a little about yourself?" I nodded and spoke softly, my voice calm. I spent Christmas in a shelter this year. My daughters couldn't take care of me anymore, and I didn't expect anyone to notice. I've lived a quiet life, and I've always tried to help my family. I never imagined this." My words trailed off for a moment as I looked around the studio, seeing cameras and lights, realizing I was really here. The audience listened in silence. I could see some people wiping their eyes, and the emotion made my own chest tighten. I didn't feel proud or boastful. I just wanted to be honest about who I was. Then Serena held up a large check. "Henry, this is the winning ticket. The grand prize of $5 million. I felt my knees weaken slightly. My hands trembled as I reached for the check. I couldn't stop staring. $5 million, a number that seemed impossible, yet there it was, real in my hands. Tears filled my eyes, but I held them back. I couldn't believe how quickly life could change. One day I was abandoned and cold. The next, I was standing here, smiling at people I had never met, holding something that could transform my entire future. The audience erupted into applause, and I smiled softly, humbled by their cheers. I didn't want to shout or cry. I just wanted to be grateful, quietly and completely. After the show ended, the crew helped me off the stage. I stepped outside into the crisp morning air, the sunlight reflecting off the city buildings. It felt different this time. Not heavy with loneliness, but filled with possibility. I realized that this was more than money. This was proof that life could surprise you when you least expect it, and that hope could arrive even when everything seemed lost. For the first time in months, I felt a calm joy. I didn't think about revenge or anger toward my family. I only thought about what I could do with this gift, and how I could finally live a life that mattered to me, not for others' approval, but for my own peace. The next morning, the world outside my shelter room seemed different. I hadn't slept much, my mind full of the events from the TV show. I had held the $5 million check in my hands, felt the applause, and experienced a kind of peace I hadn't known for years. I wanted to take my time and think carefully about what to do next. I didn't know my family had been watching. I didn't know Linda and Caleb were sitting in their living room, frozen in disbelief. My younger daughter, Nora, sat quietly beside them, tears running down her cheeks. She had finally realized the pain her father endured, and the regret weighed heavily on her. I spent the morning in a small office with the lottery officials. They explained the next steps, paperwork, and legal details. I listened carefully, trying not to be overwhelmed by the sudden responsibility. For a moment, I remembered the shelter, the thin mattress, and the gentle voice of Mr. Grant. I realized that life had given me a second chance, and I had to use it wisely. Later, I stepped outside the office. The city streets were busy, but the cold air felt refreshing on my face. I thought about my daughters, about what I had lost, and about what I wanted for myself now. I didn't feel anger toward them. Their actions hurt me, yes, but I had survived. I had grown stronger. I didn't want to live in bitterness. Instead, I planned for a new life. I would buy a small home somewhere peaceful. I wanted to help a few people at the shelter, give them hope the way Mr. Grant had given me hope. I wanted to live simply, but with dignity, and with the ability to make my own choices without anyone dismissing me. Meanwhile, I knew my family might try to reach me. Linda would probably call, maybe even come to see me. Caleb would likely try to regain control, and Nora would plead for forgiveness. But I had learned something important. My life didn't have to revolve around their approval. I had value, and I had a future I could shape myself. I smiled softly, feeling warmth in my chest. The money was important, yes, but even more important was the realization that I had survived abandonment, humiliation, and despair, and I had come out stronger, wiser, and calmer. I felt a freedom I had never known. I took a deep breath and began walking toward the car that would take me to my new home. The city felt alive around me, full of possibilities. I knew the world could change in an instant, and my life had proven it. Christmas, the day that began in loneliness and heartbreak, had turned into a day of unexpected blessings. And as I walked, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, steady and unshakable. I was ready to live for myself, to embrace a future that no one could take from me, not even my family. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. Henry's life changed forever, proving that patience, courage, and a little bit of luck can turn even the darkest moments into a brand new beginning. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more jaw-dropping tales of justice, surprises, and unexpected victories.